How's everyone this morning? Um, this morning I'm going to read from the book of Romans, and surprisingly, not surprisingly really, but all of our verses seem to kind of line up with the same thought. And so Romans 9 and 16 says, "So it is God who decides to show mercy. We can neither choose it nor work for it. For the scripture says that God told Pharaoh, 'I have appointed you for the very purpose of displaying my power in you and to spread my fame throughout the earth.'" So you see, God chooses to show mercy to some, and He chooses to harden the hearts of others so they refuse to listen. And today I am just grateful for God's mercy and more importantly, the bigger picture. Because sometimes we don't see God's plan, but one thing that we have to remind ourselves of is that it's always a plan. They use that particular phrase and term in the Bible many different times where they said God's plan. And when you think about it, like what is a plan? A plan is something that you put thought into, is something that, you know, it has a start, but it also has a finish. Like you don't start a plan without having an end to it. So every single thing that God has planned for your life, He has some sort of good coming out of it. And sometimes, we don't see it. We always think that the end goal of it is for like us to get like some blessing out of it, or like for us to get like something important out of it. But sometimes like God moves in our lives to ensure that somebody else gets a blessing, or that somebody else receives a message, you know? Like in this particular um, part of the scripture, he reverted back to the Old Testament where he said, that God told Pharaoh, "I have appointed you for the very purpose of displaying my power in you and to spread my fame throughout the earth." But you can imagine at that moment in time, like what those people didn't realize that all of this was part of God's plan, because all they was going through was just pure oppression. They couldn't have seen or even imagined, you know, that how many thousands and thousands and thousands of years later, how important their story would have been to our story today. Like they went through hell. They were oppressed. They had to flee for their lives. But at the end of the day, all of it was part of God's very intricate plan. And sometimes that plan might have just come into fruition, a day later. It may come to fruition 1,000 years later. But the reality of it is that it was all part of His plan. And so today I am just grateful for God's plan, whatever it is in my life. Whether it's something that He has me directly aligned to do, or whether it's something that one of you may be aligned to do in my life. But whatever it is, it's something that I'm extremely grateful for. And it's something that I now too am very mindful of. That the decisions that I make today could affect somebody tomorrow. So let us also go out there and be intentional with what we do. Obviously, be kind, which is very important. But most importantly, remember that whatever it is that we go through is part of God's very intricate and well thought out plan. I'm, I'm Kerry, and I relinquish my mic.